Yes, sir.
Okay. So to Donna and Jiva, we have just two basic rules in the class. One is there is no hierarchy as such. Like if I am teaching does not mean that every word that comes out of my mouth is set in stone and you cannot argue or you cannot debate or you cannot ask or counter question that. You have all the rights to do that. Second, discussions. Okay. If you are not participating, discussing in the class, if you are not active, I will not know how much you are learning. Okay. So active discussions and cross questioning, because I will also do the same. And in every class, someone summarizes the last class. So because it's your first class today, so clearly you will not be doing this, but from next class, there's no honeymoon period in my classes. Immediately from the next class, it can be any one of you, and most likely it can be any one of you, because I have tortured others a lot. You can ask others. So in the last class, so that's it. These are just the two things, okay, you have to take care of in the class. When you come in the class, leave your hesitations, leave your feeling of being wrong outside, because it's good to be wrong during the class so that you are not wrong in your exams and where you have to prove. Okay, so we'll practice that. It's like the net practice where you play all the wrong shots, give all the wrong answers so that you know what is the right one. Hannah has also joined in. So anyone who would like to, in the last class we started with cancer, we studied cancer. So anyone who would like to just summarize cancer quickly? Anyone would like to volunteer? If you want, then I'll pick one.
So I have a doubt in one of.
Yes, Rifat, we can begin with the doubt. Good enough. Tell me, what's your doubt?
In the malignant part, there is a point that says cancer cells compete with normal cells for increased nutritional demand.
Yes.
Can you explain that point?
Yes, of course, I will. So this one you are saying about cancerous cells compete with normal cells for increased nutritional demands, right?
Yes.
So as I told you, cancerous cells are rapidly dividing, right? And when they are rapidly dividing, to do these divisions and to sustain themselves, they need lots and lots of energy. So first thing is, if you are overactive, it's like if you are sitting versus you are playing. You need more energy when you're sitting or when you are playing? Playing, correct? So you are active, you are in a very active state. So similarly, cells which are continuously dividing are in an active state as compared to those which do not divide, or which divide and then take a long rest and then divide. So first is that. Second, that energy requirement is already high, and cancerous cells cannot get enough glucose or oxygen because they form a tumor. So if they are very properly aligned in a line, every cell can get supplied by the blood proper nutrition and oxygen. But when they rapidly keep dividing, they are just making a mass bulk of cells, and the innermost cells sometimes do not get enough oxygen and nutrition. So what they do is they start, so whatever tissue they innervate, they start competing or they start killing the cells nearby. And because they are competing for the nutrition, because they need more nutrition, they are not getting that nutrition, and they are energy deficient anyways. So they try to siphon more and more nutrition from the nearby tissues. That kills the nearby tissues. That kind of chokes the nearby tissues on nutrition and they get killed. Second thing is, as I told you, cancerous cells have some issues, some problems in their molecular mechanism. So cancerous cells do not utilize the fuel well. From one molecule of glucose, a normal cell, when undergoes glycolysis, can form 2 ATPs and then 2 pyruvate molecules as a final result. This you have done in class 11th in respiration chapter. Remember that? Respiration in plants. You have done it. Glycolysis. And then you have also done oxidative phosphorylation, electron transport chain. So those pyruvate molecules goes into electron transport chain and further produce more energy. So to utilize a glucose properly, you have to go through a oxidative, like aerobic respiration pathway, which cancer cells are not very good at doing. So they produce very less energy per glucose molecule. So there are two things. One, they need more energy, they are not getting that energy. Second, the fuel that they are getting, they are not able to utilize it completely. So with the given amount of fuel, which is glucose, they are not producing as much energy as a normal cell can produce. So they are wasting fuel and they need more energy. So they have to compete with normal cells. You understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that's what it means, that cancerous cells compete with normal cells for increased nutritional demands. Okay, so they starve the normal cells and take all their energy. Make sense now?
Yes.
Yes. So would you like to also give a quick summary, Rifat? Now that you understand this, would you like to summarize cancer quickly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Very well. So let's begin.
So cancer is an oncogenic transformation of cells that takes place. Then
What do you mean by
cancers,
oncogenic transformation?
They
The
start
word,
to multiply uncontrollably.
yes, that is, so oncogenic or onco is related to cancer itself. So oncogenic transformation means the cells change. They change and transform into something which is constantly just dividing. Okay, which has forgotten to stop. Yes, thank you, Rifat. Sorry, thank you, Fatima. Continue, Rifat.
so the cancer cells, they lose the ability to to have contact inhibition, and they form tumor. There are two types of tumor: benign tumor and malignant tumor. So benign tumor is localized and confined. It does not spread and it's not mainly harmful. Whereas malignant tumor is neoplastic proliferating cell. They spread from one organ to another through blood.
And that process is called metastasis.
Yes, that process is metastasis. And the tumor cells that invade the other tissues and they physically damage the cells of other tissues.
Yes.
And cancer cells, they compete with normal cells for increased nutritional demands. Now the causes. There is physical, chemical, and biological causes, agents. In physical,
Yeah,
we have
they are called carcinogens. These agents are called carcinogens.
yes, carcinogens. In physical, we have X-rays or gamma rays, which are ionizing radiation. And then we have UV radiation, which is a non-ionizing radiation.
What is the ionizing and non-ionizing? The word itself says ionizing. They ionize the atoms. So they have very high energy and they can ionize the atoms, which means they can give so much energy to an atom that they can remove one electron from it and make it an ion, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And non-ionizing are not that high energy rich, but enough to cause damage.
Then we have chemical agents in which we have nicotine and
Ethidium bromide.
Ethidium bromide. And then we have biological, in which we have oncogenic viruses. Examples for that are HPV, HHVB, hepatitis B, hepatitis C.
HHV8. It's not B, it's 8. I'm sorry if I think it's my bad that it looks like a B, it's 8, the number. Okay.
Yes. And
HHV is human herpes virus, right?
yes.
Cool. Then
we have two cellular orthogens and proto-orthogens. These They are usually normal cells, but they can be activated into cancer cells under certain conditions.
Correct. Those conditions are basically mainly mutations. So through mutations, when these get activated, so they can cause cancer in every human or organism. So they are present already like ticking bombs. Now they do not cause cancer in normal conditions. Something goes wrong with these genes and they will make the system become cancerous. Okay, then detection part.
So
Yes.
do
Yep.
everybody has these cells, cellular oncogenes and proto-oncogenes?
Cellular oncogenes are genes. They are present in cells. That's why they are called cellular. So yes, we all have these genes in us. So BRCA1 for that matter, which is very famous and very well studied. It was first discovered in breast cancer. So it was named BRCA, but it does not mean that the gene only does cancer. The gene has some other roles, some important roles in our body. That's why that gene is there. Okay, so if you for that matter, every gene that goes haywire or the genes that gets mutated and starts causing disease, it does not mean that why is that gene. So I can ask, why is that gene there? Why is the body carrying a ticking bomb? An evolution, we could have discarded it, right? We don't need it, and it is just a waste thing. It is causing harm to us whenever getting activated, but we cannot get rid of it because they are crucial genes. They are also doing some useful function when they are normal. It is only when they go when they do not perform their normal function and starts misbehaving, then they cause problem. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We get diagnosis. First one is MRI, in which we have CT scans and X-ray scanning. Then we did biopsy. In biopsy, they take a suspected tissue and then study it for cancer. And they take a otherwise they take a bone marrow sample to count the blood cells.
Yeah, if it is a blood cancer, if chances are there of a blood cancer, then you can do that. Yep. And
the third method is antibody testing against cancerous cells.
Yeah, it should be antibody testing against cancerous cell proteins. Okay, so there are specific things secreted by cancer which are not secreted by normal cells, and that's where, if in a blood or if in a tissue we can figure out these things which are cancer specific, cancer markers, then we can say that the person or the patient is suffering from cancer. Okay.
Then we have genetic screening. It detects a gene inherited by an individual that increases the susceptibility to cancer.
Yeah. The treatment part.
The first treatment we have is surgery. It is done to remove the cancerous tumor. Then next we have chemotherapy or immunotherapy. It is used to treat cancer cells in a specific manner, but it has a major side effect like hair loss, anemia.
What is chemotherapy? You didn't say that because I dictated you. It's not written on the board, but you should also tell what you know about chemotherapy. What does it tell? The word chemotherapy. It's done through chemicals. That's why it's called chemo. You give a chemical in the body that goes and kills the cancerous cells specifically. Now, we try to be as specific as we can just to kill the cancerous cells, but it can also kill non-cancerous cells, or it can also affect, as a side effect, the normal cells or some specific cells in the body. For example, the RBCs and the hair follicles. That's why the major side effects are anemia and hair loss when you are undergoing chemotherapy. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have radiotherapy. We use radiation to kill cancerous cells.
Correct. why do radiations kill cells, cancerous cells? They can also kill our own cells, right?
Yes.
So how does it work then, radiotherapy? So we just pinpointed, we do the therapy pinpointed to the region where cancer is there. And if it is very inside, somewhere very inside into the body, it's difficult to do radiotherapy in that case, because we might not be able to just target the cancer cells. Okay. So depending on what is the condition of the patient, where is the cancer, which stage of cancer the patient is in, we decide which treatment mode to go. Mostly it is the combination of all these three. If there is a tumor which is prominent in any organ, and if we can surgically remove that, first thing we remove the tumor, cancerous tumor, then we start with chemotherapy and radiotherapy if required. And sometimes if detected at early stages, cancer can be treated. Okay. Otherwise, you can also do another thing is cancer treatment. You give alpha interferons. Alpha interferons activate the immune system to destroy the tumor causing factors in the cells. Okay. Okay. So I'll take over from here. Thank you so much, Rifat, for summarizing this. You did a good job. Now I ask you to go back and read a little bit about drug abuse. Did you go back and do that? Yep. So today I'll be talking about drug abuse, and I'll mostly talk about the major drug classes that are abused. And so what is drug abuse? What is a drug, first of all? Quickly. Now anyone can participate. Everyone is open and you should participate, including Donna and Jiva.
Drug can be a medicine.
Drug can be a medicine. Drug not can be. Drug is a medicine. Yes.
It's a medicine, yeah. But when it's taken in a really huge amount, and then it's drug abuse.
Drug can also be abused if not taken in huge amount. For that matter, you know, all these drugs which are abused, heroin, MMDA, all these MDMA, all these party rave drugs, they are not taken in huge amounts. They are just taken in very little quantities by injection or by snorting, or you just put it on the tip of your tongue as a strip and it works. So even very small quantities can also be, but abusing means it's simple. It's not overuse. Overusing and abusing are two different things. Abusing is when you don't need it at all and you are abusing it. So that's abuse. You know, it's different from overuse. Alcohol, for example, it's in our medicines as well. You know, many medicines and tablets are alcohol based because you need to dissolve the medicines, or you may, as a solvent, you need ethanol and not water to make many medicines. But the abuse part comes when you don't need it and you're taking it just for fun. Okay. Now, why is drug abuse a problem? So we know that drugs are chemicals. They can be synthesized or they can be naturally produced. Today I'll be talking about the three categories of the drug which are mostly abused. So one is opioids. You know what are opioids? Which comes from opium. All the drugs which comes from the plant opium. All these three are plant-based. Opioids. Then you must have heard of cannabinoids. You all must have heard of cannabis sativa. The common name is weed. Right?
Yes.
5 leaves like this. You must have seen the picture of cannabis sativa. It's a plant. And then we'll talk about coca alkaloids, commonly also known as alkaloids. Now these three categories are the most common abused drugs amongst youth, and surveys tell that just to be cool, or I don't know for what reasons, but drug abuse is getting more and more common, including nicotine, which is tobacco, and alcohol abuse as well. So alcohol is the least harmful among all that we are going to study. Harmful in the sense showing effects, harmful effects on your body. Alcohol can only start to show harmful effects on your body if you are taking it in large quantities for very long period of time. But some drugs, even in small quantities taken for just 1, 2, or 3 times, can cause irreversible damage to your nervous system. Okay, and nicotine has the potential to cause cancer. Okay, so let's know more about it. Okay, so first thing is, what reasons do you think that people abuse drugs? If you have to find the root cause so that we can solve this problem in society, what do you think are the major reasons people think that, oh, I should go and take drugs?
Stress relievers.
Very good. One of the major factors is stress reliever. People are stressed. uh, they are fed up with a lot of things in the life. They're not able to cope up well with situations which are stressful or which are upsetting. So they often find the consort in drugs and alcohol. Anything else? But everyone who's taking drugs is not sad.
Some people are curious.
Curiosity. Some people are curious and then they just do it.
Yes, curiosity, like to just, where does this curiosity comes from?
Come from
Influence from other people.
places. People can influence them, or they must
Yes,
have seen it on a TV or something.
yeah. So for that matter, I'm very curious about, how astronauts go to moon. But my curiosity cannot fulfill because I don't have the access. I cannot go to moon, right? So it also comes from the fact that you have the knowledge, you have people around you, and you have the access. So if you don't have an access to something, your curiosity, cannot be fulfilled. You understand? Do I make sense?
Yes.
So
Yes.
easy black marketing access to these drugs are very common. Okay, so that's why you can satisfy your curiosity, go and see. But the problem with the drugs is, it's not like you were curious, you wanted to see what happens if I take cannabinoids. You took cannabinoids and you're like, okay, I got to know now, so I will write it in my diary, this happens and I'm fine. You will start liking it, and then your brain, it will be tricked. Your brain will be tricked to do it again. Then you will do it again, and slowly and gradually you will develop dependency on the drugs. Getting into the habit of taking drugs is very easy, but getting out of it is not. It's very, very difficult. You need to go through therapy, proper professional help to leave drugs. Okay, because they do actual biological things, molecular changes into your brain that makes it very difficult. Okay, we'll figure out how. I'll teach you how they do it. So curiosity, easy access, and because people are upset and sad in their life, they are coping up with things. Anything else? Peer pressure. It's getting a fashion among youth to do things which is trendy, right? It's just like earlier we just had some platforms like Twitter, or way back when I was in school, it was something called Orchid when Facebook was not there. And then Facebook came, people could just tweet. Now there's every new thing coming up. You can make reels. So everyone is making reels. Correct? Something becomes trendy. You are wearing this kind of a jean, so everyone is wearing that kind of a jean. It's cool. It's cool to fit in the society. So in order to fit in the society, we often forget that where we have to draw the line for ourselves. As people, we all have our rights to live how we want to live, to believe what we want to believe in. Yes, it's also your right to go on and take drugs then, but you should also know that it's not good for you. Knowing that it's not good for you, still you choose to do it, then no one, if you're an adult, so no one will like say no to you, but then government will impose certain rules that something is legal and something is not legal, because then you will take these drugs, you'll go on there'll be issues with you, then you will depend on the system, the hospital and the rehabilitation centers to treat you. So that's why some things are legal and some things are illegal. It destroys human life. Drug is one of those things. So just to fit in, we are unable to handle peer pressure, and just because our peers are doing it and it's cool, we just do it. It's cool. So let's do it. That's where lack of knowledge comes in, and everyone who takes it, they feel okay. So some people say that if I don't take these, then I'll less active. If I take these, I'm more active, my brain works better. But your brain, Einstein, Newton, no one took drugs. They were not discovering things on drugs. Simple. So your brain can work without drugs. That's how you have evolved. Drugs are very fancy and new things that you just got to know about, right? Humans are there from very old. Do you think that we were always smoking pot or taking heroin or ganja or charas to do good things? No, right? So that could not be an explanation. And you will be very surprised to know that cannabinoids, the chemicals which come from the plant cannabis, how are these drugs able to affect our brain, is because our brains have receptor for these drugs. Our brain is a very protected system. It does not allow anything to come in and just affect the brain. Only things which are important for the brain can come in. Only things who have a channel can come in. Now, we do have cannabinoid receptors. It's called CB1, cannabinoid receptor in our brain. Now, what is a cannabinoid receptor doing in our brain? Because we make inside our body, we synthesize these chemicals in very trace amounts. So cannabinoids, the cannabinoids which we synthesize in our body is called endocannabinoids. They go and bind the receptor, do the same thing, but in a level where it is required. So body produces everything that we need, the brain needs. When you take the same thing from artificial sources outside or from other plant sources in high quantity, you feel elevated. If cannabinoids make you feel good, let's say, or your heart beat faster and you get a feeling of euphoria, you like the vibe around you, then you will start liking it more. You get a heightened feeling of happiness, sadness, gloomy feeling, or just the feeling of numbness, whatever it is, it gets heightened. That's why we take drugs for, or people who take drugs for, which is abuse. So they are already being used in the system, being created in the system. That's why we have the receptors for it. But when you are misusing it for your own pleasures, that's called abuse, and that the brain and the system cannot tolerate for very long. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the first category, which is opioids. Okay, so what are opioids? Opioids, the drugs which come from the plant opium poppy. So keep writing. The source for opioids is the plant opium poppy. It's called the poppy plant as well. In earlier times, we know about this plant from very long. Humanity knows about this from very long back in time. There was something called milk of poppy. They secrete a whitish fluid, which is known as milk of poppy, and people figured out that this milk from this plant can help you relieve the pain. So in earlier times, when someone got a wound, a major wound, in a battle or something, or something, someone got limb amputed because it was severely damaged or had poisoning. So in that cases, to help the person with pain, the doctors or the health, what we call them, the maesters of those time used to give milk of poppy in certain amount, which will help you relieve your pain. And which is when science developed, we figured out that why it happens is because this opioids, one of the opioid is morphine. Have you heard of the term morphine?
Yes.
Morphine is a painkiller, a potent painkiller, which also was used and is used as a painkiller in patients who undergo surgery. Okay. And morphine is can be extracted from this poppy, opium poppy plant, from the latex, which I'm saying is the whitish milky fluid. Okay. So papaver somniferum is the name of this opium poppy. Scientific name is papaver somniferum. And all these opioids, write down, they bind to, they go into the blood, through the blood they go into the brain, and they bind to the specific opioid receptors. Now, if these receptors are already present in our brain, it's clear that our body must be having or must be synthesizing opioids in the amount that is required, correct? If it is being synthesized in a plant, it is a part of the system, part of the biological system. It does something. Okay, so it also is synthesized in the body and it binds to this receptor, or something related binds to the receptor. Because these receptors cannot just be there because, one day humans will start abusing opium, so let's put this opioid receptor in their brain. No. So they bind to this specific opioid receptors, and what do they do is, write down, this is present in central nervous system, CNS, the brain. And what do they do is, opioids act as a depressant. What do I mean by depressant? What do you understand by the word?
Basically, it slows down the body.
Yes, it depresses all your functions and it slows down the body. You perceive the world in a slow motion, so it slows down the body and also the responses. So if you are in a danger and if you are high on opioids, you will not be able to save yourself. So it slows down the body functions. And that's why people abuse it, to get this feeling. It also, apart from CNS, goes in, these receptors are present in GIT. You know what is GIT? Gastrointestinal tract, in our stomach and intestines. So these receptors are present in CNS and GIT and they act as a depressant. So you should know some common names as well. So it's commonly known as MEC as a party drug. Okay. So known as MEC, commonly known as MEC. And morphine is also a type of opioid. And their properties are that mostly they are white, odorless powders. So they look like salt. But in just thing is they are bitter, not salty. White, odorless, bitter, crystalline compounds. Look like sugar or salt. Okay. Is this clear about opioids?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very well. So just remember the source, opium poppy, the receptor, simple opioid receptor, where it is present, CNS and GIT, and what it does, it acts as a depressant. It's a depressant. Okay, cool. Now let's go to cannabinoids. So cannabinoids.
I have a doubt.
Yes, please.
Is heroin also an opioid, or is it different?
Sorry, come again.
Heroin.
Heroin, yes. Heroin is also an opioid. Actually, I forgot to tell you that morphine, you can actually make morphine from heroin. Okay. Sorry, heroin from morphine. So morphine is, you can acetyl. So you don't know about this. It's not important to know all these chemical groups, but if you do acetylation of morphine, you can make heroin. So heroin, you can also write here. It's also known as heroin. It does not have a E at the end. It's just ROIN. Okay. If you put an E, it's heroin, which is also the word used for actresses. So heroin is, the common name for heroin is SMAC. Okay. So if you write SMAC or you write heroin, it's the same thing. Cool. Is the doubt clear? And
Yes, sir.
from heroin, you can make morphine by you're just adding an acetyl group to it. So by adding acetyl group, you can make morphine. So it's also known as diacetylation. So if you diacetyl morphine, you make heroin, to just increase the potency, to increase the effects of the drug. Thank you. Okay, now we come to cannabinoids, and the source for cannabinoids is cannabis sativa. Cannabis sativa. Okay, and what is cannabis sativa? It's commonly known as weed. So the leaves and the inflorescence of this plant is used to make drugs. Now again, cannabinoids bind to specific cannabinoid receptors. As I told you, we also produce cannabinoids in our body, which are called endocannabinoids, and they also go and bind to these receptors and do some function. When we are misusing, we are just flushing the system with more and more cannabinoids. So this function, the brain property gets altered, the function get altered. Okay, and these are also present in CNS, principally in the brain. So CNS contain two things: brain and the spinal cord. Majorly cannabinoid receptors are in the brain. Okay. So naturally they are extracted from the inflorescence of this plant. Inflorescence, you all know, right? The small flowers. So for this plant, flowers, leaf, and buds, resin, all different things are used, and if you mix them in combinations, you can make different types of drugs from cannabis sativa. So you must have heard of terms like marijuana, hashish, charas, and ganja. They are all related. They are all coming from cannabis sativa. They are all related drugs. They are all cannabinoids. So marijuana, hashish, also known as shisha normally for party drugs, charas, and ganja. Okay, these are all the common names of different cannabinoids in different proportions of leaves, inflorescence, and flowers and buds of this plant. So normally they are taken orally. If in this case opioids, you can also take it through injections. Like you should not, I should not say you can take it. One can take it through intravenous injections because they are crystalline powders. Cannabinoids are normally ingested orally. So oral ingestion, or it can be smoke. You can smoke, or which comes under inhalation. Smoking or inhalation. Okay. And what do they do? Effects. Cannabinoids has effects on the cardiovascular system. What is cardiovascular system? The word cardio is for
Your heart. It's a part of
Heart,
the respiratory system.
respiratory, no, it's the part of
No, like the
circulatory
heart.
system.
Sorry.
Heart has nothing to do with respiration. Heart is a part of circulatory system. Respiration is lungs. Okay, not the heart.
Sorry, I meant circulate. Yeah, I got
Yes, right.
confused.
I understand. Yeah, okay. Circulatory system is that circulates all the nutrients, including oxygen also. So oxygen come through respiratory system into the body, and then it goes into the cells through circulatory system, and then again inside the cell, respiration happens, where every molecule of glucose is oxidized in the oxidized and broken down into pyruvates, and energy is produced. Anyways, so it affects the cardiovascular system, and that's why it gives you a feeling of heightened, you feel either excited or active, or you feel gloomy, depending on person to person, but it's addictive like the other two. And the third one is coca alkaloids, also known as just alkaloids. And what is the source of alkaloids? Anyone knows? You must have heard of a term cocaine, right? Heroin, morphine, cocaine. Yes.
Could you
Any doubt?
spell?
This one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the source here is Erythroxylum coca. This is the plant, Erythroxylum coca. Okay, and this plant is native to South America, but have been transported or smuggled to other parts of the world as well. And it's grown, and this alkaloids, cocaine, can be legally produced. So Erythroxylum coca is a plant. Now, coca alkaloids actually are opposite in a way to opioids. Opioids slow down the body function. Coca alkaloids just do the opposite. So what they do is it interferes with the dopamine signaling. Okay. Dopamine signaling tells you if something you are doing, sorry, writing it again, is rewarding to your system or is aversive or a punishment. So reward and punishment circuit in the brain is controlled by dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter. So it either tells you that something you are doing, your brain likes it, so keep doing it. For example, you got a new PSP and you played the first day, you would like to play more on the second day, right? It happens. As a kid, when you got your first bike, and you ride the first bike, your bicycle, the next day you want to ride it more, right? Or with any gift, it happens. The favorite T-shirt that you bought or a pullover that you bought, there is an urge to wear it, and when you wear it for the first time, you like it. There's an urge to wear it again, right? You look for occasions when I can wear it. That's all your reward pathway. Same goes with punishment. For the first time you tasted something expecting it to be good, but it turned out to be atrocious. You didn't like it at all. Then next time your brain will just be, even if someone will ask you, let's go and have this, you'll be like, no, I don't want to have it, right? That's because your punishment pathway got activated. You didn't like it. Do you understand, everyone? So both reward and punishment is modulated by dopamine, and this coca alkaloid interferes with this signaling, and commonly it's known as cocaine, coke also it's called, or I think it's also known as crack. Okay, and it's usually snorted. It's a powder, you just snort it through the nose. So it is a potent stimulant. As I told you, it is opposite to opioids, and it's a very potent. Yes.
Erythro
oxalate coca is like the, how to say, scientific name for it, or how?
Yes, this is the scientific name for it.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, erythroxylum coca.
okay, sir.
Okay. So alkaloids are potent stimulants. What do you mean by stimulants? They stimulate the system and they give you a sense of euphoria. Okay. So they act on the CNS, potent stimulants to CNS, and provides the feeling of euphoria. You feel very happy, you feel very elated after taking cocaine and coke, alkaloids. The problem is you start getting addicted on it. If just let's understand it this way. So if you have like if someone cannot eat spicy food, let's say, okay, then the first day you have spicy food, you will be struggling with it, right? You will get a very heightened feeling of that spice, and you will drink water and you will just struggle with it. But let's say you try, because but this is something we don't like, so you would not love to eat spicy and spicy food over time. But let's understand what it means by heightened response. So next time, if you again eat spicy food, then again eat spicy food, then keep eating spicy food till sometime your system will not like it, but after that it will accept it, right? And then next time, to feel the same level of uh, uh, spicy taste, you need to increase the spiciness of the food, because your baseline just went up. You understand? Do you understand, people?
Yes.
Yeah. Same is with alkaloids. If you take alkaloids first day, you will be so happy, for no reason. Sometimes you'll just be happy. Why are you happy? You don't know. Your body is feeling happy, your brain is feeling happy. But next time, to feel the same amount of happiness, even if something good happened to you, you will not be able to feel happiness, because your system is dependent on these alkaloids. Till the alkaloids in a particular concentration will not get into your brain, you will not feel that happiness. So you will take more drugs to feel happy, then more, and your addiction will keep on increasing. So understand why it's dangerous. There will come a point that where without drugs, you will not be able to feel happy, even the happiest thing happened to you. Do you understand, everyone? Why it's a dangerous situation to get addicted to drug? Yes. And then de-addiction is also a big challenge, because there are severe withdrawal symptoms that brain show when you all of a sudden. So slowly and slowly you can just build your dependency, but you cannot drop it all of a sudden. So if you know how these rehab centers work, suppose someone goes there for alcohol, um, um, what I was saying, to get rid of alcohol or to get rid of any other drug, they won't just stop giving you drug from the first day. You know what do? They decrease the dose over time. They give you the same drug from which you want to get out, but without telling you. Sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't tell you, depending on which condition you are in. But over the time, they are just making the system be self-dependent and not depend on the drugs, and this is how they take anyone out of the drugs. Okay, so this feeling of euphoria is very heightened. And write down excess dosage. Excess dosage of these alkaloids, of let's say cocaine as an example, can cause hallucinations. What are hallucinations? Anyone knows?
See things.
Seeing things. We anyway see things. Are you not seeing things right now?
Seeing things which are not real.
Seeing things which don't exist actually. So how are we seeing it? Our eyes, there is a well-known mechanism. Our eyes see something, some light fall on the eyes, goes to the retina, then a signal is sent to the brain, and brain interprets what we are seeing. How are we seeing things which are not there, or hearing things which are not there? So there are auditory hallucinations, there are visual hallucinations. How are we seeing and hearing things which are not actually happening in the real life? And what does it tell you about the brain? Isn't it very interesting to just know that hallucinations can happen?
Is it related to daydreaming?
Daydreaming is not hallucination, because in daydreaming you know that you are daydreaming. You do not see a person in front of your eyes. You know that it's all in your head. That's daydreaming. Like you can be, so you know that today evening when you will come from school, your mother will gift you something. She already told you about it. So in the class you are sitting. I'm so sorry, excuse me. So sitting in the class, but you are physically there, mentally not there. You are daydreaming about what the gift will be like. Oh, I'll do this if I receive this, if I'll do this if I receive that. So you are in your own zone. But you can come out of it and you know that, oh, I was daydreaming about this. You do not get confused between reality and, thank you so much, Anna, reality and illusion while daydreaming. Hallucinations are something where you cannot distinguish whether it was real or unreal. You believe it as real. So how do you think brain can do that? How do you think that can happen? There is no stimulus from outside. This is where it's interesting to know that it's all the brain. It's all brain. What we are seeing, it will make no sense if the signal will not go into the higher brain centers and get processed. So it's not our eyes that see, it's the brain that sees. It's not the tongue that tastes. It is just the sampling thing. So whatever light fall on it goes to the brain. If I just, sometimes people are born or people lose their ability. They have eyes, ears and nose intact, but they cannot see, smell or hear. Like in case of COVID, people could not smell and taste in case of COVID, right? It was one of the symptoms. Why? Their nose was there, but what was not there? The neurons which were sending the signal to brain. Or sometimes people are born with normal eyes, but they cannot see because the visual center in the brain is damaged. So it's the brain that actually perceives everything. So sometimes on high doses of these alkaloids, brain starts perceiving things for which there is no stimulus coming. So the neurons keep getting activated on their own because it's a stimulant. So it stimulates the neurons which are necessary for your vision. So if something stimulates your neurons which are important for you to see something, you will just see things which are not there because the neurons just got activated without a reason. You will hear something. Sometimes you will understand it, sometimes you will not understand it, but you will just hear because it's the brain that's making you perceive that. Is it clear, everyone? That's where it becomes even more harmful and dangerous. People go crazy, they become mad on hallucinations. And cannabinoids, along with alkaloids, also are sometimes abused by a sports person because they are stimulants and they help they also affects your heart and circulatory system, make it faster, which actually sports person need to perform better. So these are some kind of drugs that are checked when anti-doping tests are done. Apart from these three, cannabinoids, alkaloids and opioids, there are others kind of drugs as well which can cause hallucination. And there are some other drugs as well which are used, which are not abused but used. So helpful drugs. So there are some helpful drugs also. Even morphine is helpful if used for medical purposes, and harmful when you are abusing it, correct? So helpful drugs are your one class is benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines. They are used for and barbiturates. barbiturates, benzodiazepines, and amphetamines. Don't worry if you don't remember these names, it's okay, just remember the above three, but I'm just telling you these three are used in treatment of mental health issues, mental illnesses. Okay. What kind of mental illnesses they are used in? Like depression, insomnia, etc. Okay, anxiety.
Even ADHD, right?
ADHD, yes, when they have attention deficit syndrome. Yes. Sometimes you need to slow down the brain, sometimes you need to stimulate the brain. Like in case of depression, the brain becomes very, very dull and sad. So you need to stimulate it by giving some happy hormones like serotonin. So you will give drugs that will increase the production of serotonin, or will not allow your system to destroy serotonin. So serotonin will stay in your system for longer durations. Those are called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and they help to treat anxiety and depression related disorders. Okay, is it clear, everyone? As I've already told you, morphine is an effective painkiller. Yeah. There are some other plants as well which have some hallucinogenic properties. You must have heard of a name called dhatura. You know about dhatura? Or just remember some other hallucinogenic plants. So one is dhatura, Atropa belladonna. It's called belladonna. It has a bell-shaped flower, whitish pinkish flower, which okay, cool. So, and then I think about nicotine. I already told you nicotine is a proven carcinogenic substance. So people also abuse nicotine because it gives you a kick. It's a stimulant. Nicotine stimulates your adrenal gland, gives you a feeling of kick, and you feel stimulated all of a sudden. But slowly the body becomes dependent on it, and also it is a carcinogenic substance. So tobacco, yes.
I think I did my quick research, sir.
Sorry?
I
Yeah.
did my quick research. Like belladonna is used in homeopathy. So like, is it bad or good?
Many things are used in diseases. It's belladonna it has properties which can be used for medicine as well. For that matter, everything that I taught you above, belong to some or the other kind of drug category. So some drugs slow you down, some drugs rapid up your heartbeat, some drugs stimulate the central nervous system. Belladonna also, if misused, can cause hallucinogenic effects, but belladonna also have some stimulatory effects. Okay, so sometimes in some diseases where you need to stimulate signaling between your brain and your body, you can use belladonna, extracts of belladonna. Okay, now where that extract is coming from, which part of the plant, in what concentration also matters. Is it okay? Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yes. So tobacco is one of the oldest thing humans, tobacco and alcohol, which humans have been misusing. You know that?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So before we know that tobacco causes cancer, tobacco was there, and alcohol was there. Human learned to make wine somewhere around the same time they figured out how to make bread, because both include the similar process of fermentation. If you ferment some a wheat or flour, it makes bread. If you ferment grapes and some sweet substance, sugar containing substance, it will make alcohol. So bread and wine has been around for very, very long, since humans started living and figured it out. But their ill effects only got discovered like when people started abusing it, and when, is anyone has a doubt?
No, sir.
So for example, if you know, alcohol produces a lot of energy in the body. It can make your body go warm very fast. It can make your blood go warm very fast. So if someone is suffering from like cold, like a lot of cold, someone got trapped in cold conditions, and if that person is not allergic to alcohol, you can also be allergic to these compounds. So if you're allergic to alcohol, you should not consume alcohol, but in a very small quantity, alcohol can just provide you a lot of energy, make your body warm. But if misused, it can also it affects your brain, specifically the signaling of the brain, which keeps you in a state of alertness. So on alcohol, you are not alert. You feel like droopy and drowsy. You cannot walk properly. You cannot balance. So the balancing mechanism of the brain gets altered. Whereas if you take something like a cocaine, you'll not be drooping and falling around, but you will be hyper excited sometimes, because it's alkaloid and it's a stimulant. It gives you a feeling of euphoria, so you will just shout at the top of your head. You will do all sorts of activities which require lots of energy. So you are good, you are balancing yourself, you're dancing, jumping, but it's possible that the next morning you wake up, you will not remember what happened because your mind was under the influence of the drug. So they all have different effects, but both smoking and alcohol is very, very harmful, because smoking in general, whether you're smoking a cigarette or a tobacco or any other thing, they both contains carbon monoxide. So anything that you are burning and smoking, if it's not properly burnt, any carbon source, plant and animals are carbon based, so they might produce carbon monoxide, which is CO. And there is another thing, CO2. CO2 is also harmful for the system in large quantities, but the good thing about CO2 is CO2 binds to our hemoglobin in a reversible manner. It can bind and then get unbound, so that oxygen can bind there. But carbon monoxide binds very strongly, and sometimes like it binds so strongly that it's irreversible. So if you have lots of carbon monoxide in your system, they will go and bind with the receptor where oxygen and CO2 also binds. Now you cannot bind oxygen there. So that's called carbon monoxide toxicity. And over the time, this toxicity is enough to kill the system. Okay. So the CO content in the blood actually reduces your oxygen concentration. So over time, your cells do not get enough oxygen, and people who are chain smokers have their tissues in very bad health after prolonged smoking. Okay, so this causes oxygen deficiency in the body. That's why in the COVID, which was affecting the respiratory tract, those who were smokers suffered the worst, because already their lungs were compromised. They have a lot of carbon monoxide in the system. Already their SpO2, which is saturation pressure of oxygen, was already low. When you smoke, your oxygen binding capacity of the blood goes down, and on the top of it, if you get an infection of a virus which again attacks your respiratory system, then you're gone. So that's what it does. Okay, so think about it. And this piece of information was not just important for your marks. This is something which you should know apart from. So I think that biology is very important for everyone. I think everyone should study at least the basics, because two things. One is the sex education that you get to understand your own and the opposite gender properly, so that you make informed and wise decisions in your life. So often these are the things which parents are hesitant to talk about to their kids, or often these things are not publicly addressed in front of kids. So the normal notion is, if you shield your kids from something, you are safeguarding them, which I believe is not going to work not in this era, because every kid in today's world have this 6-inch device in their hand, which is called a mobile phone or cell phone with an internet connection, and you can get everything on it, right? But if someone does not teaches you in a proper manner what is sexuality, what is a sex education, why someone is a boy and someone is a girl, what it means to have male reproductive organs or female reproductive organs, what it means to abuse drugs, alcohol, things like that, half knowledge is always dangerous than full knowledge. So you will go on internet, search for these things, get into peer pressure and take bad decisions in life. So that's where knowledge comes in, to help you with a lot of things and give you a sense of stability in your decisions. Okay, so be very wise with drugs because you know the biology of it. So rest is your decision. And apart from these three things, you have all I'm sure that you read about adolescent and drug abuse. That is specifically I think a paragraph which is added for you people who are in class 12th. This is the time where you get influenced by your peers a lot. A lot means a lot, you know. And then addiction and dependence, withdrawal symptoms. Anyone has any doubts with these topics? If you have not studied, please do study, because it also talks about liver damage by alcohol, and there is something called cirrhosis of the liver. So liver starts damaging on excessive use of alcohol, because everything, not just alcohol, all the drugs, even the drugs that you take for your benefit like your medicines, go to your liver for metabolism. So you're just putting burden on your liver. Sometimes it starts killing the liver cells. Not sometimes, mostly these drugs when abused starts killing the liver cells. So please read these paragraphs. Then in the end, there's a paragraph about prevention and control. You can only prevent it. If you can prevent it, it's better. If someone cannot prevent it, then they have to go through a therapy, a professional help to come out of it. Sometimes, not sometimes, many a times, medical help also. Okay. So in the next class also, you can ask your doubts regarding this particular chapter if you have any doubts. Anyone has any doubts right now regarding any drug, anything? Yes, no?
Also,
No, sir.
No? So you all understood why you should not take drugs.
yes.
Yes.
And by drugs, I not only mean, heroin, cocaine. I also mean not to abuse the very commonly available drugs around us. For example, alcohol, smoking. It's a choice. See, these things seem to be harmless only because they are legally available. If something is legally available, if you can go to a shop and get cigarette, does not mean it is good. And if you cannot get, let's say, cocaine so easily, does not mean that it is very, very harmful as compared to cigarette. Even cigarettes have carcinogens. At least cocaine is not causing cancer. Cigarette can cause cancer. So if you look biologically, some things which are easily available are more harmful. But we don't think like that. We just think that, okay, it's not illegal, so let's just do it. And this is illegal, so all the more reason to do it, because why is it illegal? Let's try. So stay away from both of these thought processes and take informed decisions. Okay, very well. Now, if you have no doubts, anyone? No doubts?
Sir, can I ask a doubt based on another chapter?
Yes, of course you can. So I'll
Yes,
stop
sir.
for some time here for doubts. Sorry. Yeah, go on, Artif.
Yes, sir. This is based on a molecular basis of inheritance. Sir, can you explain what are RNA primers?
RNA primers.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Why specifically RNA primers? You studied it in some specific context. That way I can explain it to you. Let me again share the white. So let me share the whiteboard with you, not the. Can you see the whiteboard here?
Yes, sir.
Now is it zoomed in? Now is it full screen, right? Yes. So he used a word, RNA primer. Now, what does the word primer means? It can be DNA primer as well, but what do you understand by the word primer?
Okay, it begins something.
Forget about RNA or DNA. Have you ever got your home painted? Your walls painted?
Yes.
So, you know, how do they paint your wall? What do they use? They just don't bring the paint and start painting your wall, no? They do something before they paint the wall.
Whitewashing?
Yeah, what is that whitewashing? Have you heard of that one thing that they apply a primer, wall putty and a primer, and then put the paint on it? If a wall is made
Yes,
up
sir.
of
Yes,
brick,
yes, yes.
yeah, if the wall is made up of brick, you will not just start painting the brick, no? Right? You will apply
Yes, sir.
something on it to make it, you know, sometimes leak proof, and then plastic paint and all these. Before applying that, we apply a primer. The same word you will find in cosmetics as well. I think women here can tell us, you know, about foundation, primers. There is such thing, such words in cosmetology as well, like in makeups. These are used. No one is aware. Anyways, so a primer is something which initiates, which is at the first level, which initiates. So here, if you're saying RNA primer or a DNA primer, a primer is a short single stranded nucleotide sequence. Okay, so it has to be short single strand and nucleotide. You know nucleotide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, nucleotide sequence that initiates. And what it is, initiates in case of RNA, it initiates the RNA synthesis or the DNA synthesis. If it's a process of replication, you use primers. Remember I told you that, let's say this is the DNA, and then it opens up, right? In
Yes.
replication fork, then something gets added here, and this starts forming the new strand, correct? So this few base pairs that came here and started the initiation of this, that is called a primer. Is it clear?
Sir, what about the lagging strand?
Same in the lagging strand. In the lag, so this is a continuous, let's say this is the leading strand. In the lagging strand also, there has to be a small primer, but it will just keep forming small fragments called Okazaki fragments. Later on, you know, they are all stitched together by adding more nucleotides by the enzyme called ligase. Is it clear? A primer, it's a short single stranded nucleic acid sequence which are used by all living organisms to initiate the synthesis of these long polymers, whether it's DNA or RNA. So RNA primer is used. So in DNA replication, when in lab we want to replicate a piece of DNA or a piece of or a particular sequence of the gene, we use RNA primers, which are, so let's say I know that sequence of my DNA, it's ATGC, 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 let's say for an example. Now I want to start a replication from here. So I can make a primer for this region. Now I know it's ATGC, so my primer should be TACG, right? A binds with T, T binds with A, C binds with G, and so on. So TACG, TACG. This is a primer. So this will go and bind here. And now, because of this binding, you got a template. So it's easier to add subsequent bases and make the synthesis go forward. So it just primes. It's the first level, like you put a primer on the wall and then you start painting on it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Cool. Any other doubt? Anyone has any other doubt?
So did you watch that video, sir?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to watch that video. It was a very hectic day for me. Would you like to tell what was in the video which you shared?
No.
It,
So you watch it, it's better. They explain it better than the video.
okay. So I think Can you again resend the link? I'll share it with everyone and also copy it in one of my, or you can share the link on the group. You are on the group, right, Hannah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and about Jiva and Donna, if you are, both of you are here, you can,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So you must be getting um, communication or messages from Learnivio's official number, right? Through WhatsApp or something.
Yes, sir.
So just tell them back on the number to add you in group. So there is a WhatsApp group where I am accessible. Whenever you have any doubts, you need anything uh, um, with respect to your exam or syllabus, you can just drop a message there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So I'll stop here, and with this we end this chapter. So this drug and alcohol abuse part is also, please read it from NCERT and come up with any doubts if you have. The next class I'll be starting chapter 10, which is microbes in human welfare. We have studied in this chapter some microorganisms which cause disease. So this chapter was human health and diseases. So we studied that microbes are bad. Now let's change some mindset and study microbes can be good as well. Just like drugs, right? They are bad and good, both depends on which one we are interacting with and in what manner. So there are good microbes as well, which help us. Without those microbes, our life would not have been this easier. So that we will discuss in the next class. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So see you in the next class, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.